Hey guys, Uncommon Ramen here. Today I am taking a look at Horrified American Monsters. So if you kept up with my videos, and I believe I did do a video for the other one. Horrified actually is a series of games. There was a game previous to this one that utilized the Universal Studios type monsters like Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Wolfman, stuff like that. But it was something that looked like it could be easily expanded upon, aside from the fact that the map kind of restricted that in some sense. So instead of really expanding on that game, they just created a new standalone game. In this case, utilizing standard American cryptids, basically. So what I can see off the front of the cover. I'm assuming we're looking at what Bigfoot right here, the Mothman right here, a Chupacabra, I'm assuming right here, and what I believe to be a Snallygaster. But we can find out by jumping in. Horrified is a cooperative game where you and a group of people are going to be facing, I believe it's 3 of these monsters, and you have to complete each of their different objectives, which are very different from each other, and they're like puzzles almost, in a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you, as most cooperative games say, win together and lose together. If you don't complete them in a specific amount of time, you will lose together. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the board. Really quickly, though, on the back of the board, it has a map of the United States and where you could see some of these said cryptids. And what looks to be... Oh, okay, so that's the names of them. So we've got Bigfoot up here. So I was right about the Bigfoot. We got the Banshee of the Badlands right there. We've got the Ozark Howler right here. So it was, yep, that's a Chupacabra. We got our Mothman. And, oh, it was a Jersey Devil, not a Snallygaster. So it's a Jersey Devil. Okay. So the cryptids in this one are Mothman, Jersey Devil, Ozark Howler, Banshee of the Badlands, Chupacabra, and Bigfoot. Okay. And then, of course, we will take a look at the map itself, because it's going to be different from the map in the first game to some degree. So just a brief look at what we got here. Now, this is a single town that is just being plagued by multiple different cryptids. So there you go. And then you can see up here the tracker, which is this guy right here, is still the same tracker. And if I had to take my guess, I would assume that the rules for this game don't differ heavily from that of the first game. But if you wanted to know, here are the rules. Horrified American Monsters. Instructions. So we're going to take a look at the contents here. We've got the 7 different investigators and their standees, the board, a couple of monster mats to indicate the monsters, as well as some citizen standees. We have our frenzy tracker and our terror marker, as well as the item bag. We got some reference cards and some dice that are just never good. We have 30 monster cards, as well as 20 perk cards, and 45 monster tokens in any numerous things. Each one of them is going to have some monster tokens that are specific to them and that you will place on the table if you are playing that particular monster. Nice big illustrations. Some talk about difficulty level, so you can change up the challenge just to make things a little bit harder or easier. In the first game, they suggest you play with 2 monsters, but specifically the Banshee and the Chupacabra. In any Subsequent games you can play on novice level 2 monsters, standard level 3 monsters, or challenging with 4 monsters. It's going to talk about some dichotomy here. Talking about some perk cards. Talking about some items. An investigator phase example with some really nice illustrations. Monster phase. Monster attack. Monster phase example with some really good illustrations. Got a little summation of the game end. This is going to talk about the monsters in a little bit more detail. So we got our Chupacabra. Some examples there. We got ourselves the Banshee of the Badlands. Bigfoot, and Bigfoot has quite a large explanation because it takes up an entire page, but it looks like most of them do. Bigfoot has what they consider a high complexity. Then we have the Mothman, which has a giant example box, but not a whole lot in the way of rules text here. Complexity is medium on that guy. The Ozark Howler is also a medium complexity. And just a quick example. Then finally we got ourselves the Jersey Devil, who also has a high complexity with the Bigfoot. And it just gives some examples right here. And that is the rule book. Next up, it looks like we got some tokens, and they are bound by shrink wrap, which is my weakness. So I'm going to grab my knife so we can open these. Okay. Get a nice cut in there. Alright, so this first punch board has some pictures of a blurry Bigfoot, as well as Bigfoot feet. Some instruments. It also is the standee board for all of the characters, as well as the citizens. The next board here has a bunch of different metals and items of sorts. The next board continues the items. It has our trackers, as well as the player board, and some of these little demonic looking skulls. And then the final board has the remainder of our heroes. So that should cover all of our little cardboard tokens. Next up, we are going to take a look at... Well, we have our standees. So the clear standees are for... What are the clear standees for? I know the colored standees are for the characters. The clear standees are obviously for the trackers, but they give you a lot of clear standees, so there should be other things that these hold. I don't know what they're all for. I just know the colored ones are for your characters, and at least 2 of these clear ones are for the trackers on the board. We also have our dice, and we're going to take a nice dive into these dice because they have blank sides, which means that they're very unique. Okay, we got 2 sides that are blank. We got 3 sides with this little burst symbol on them. And then we have 1 side that has an exclamation mark, and I believe... yeah, that's the same on all 3 of these. So these are the battle dice. I mean, there's a 33% chance that they will miss completely. We got ourselves the monsters. These are one of my favorites because they do a really good job on casting these. So we got ourselves the Chupacabra Mini. He's just ferocious looking, and he looks like an alien. Go figure. I'd be pretty scared if I saw one of those. Next up, we have the Mothman. Nothing too different here as far as if I saw this in real life, I would also be terrified. Probably more terrified because giant insect. I mean, come on. Giant insect with opposable thumbs? Tell me that's not scary. Next up, we have, well, if I can get into the bag, the Jersey Devil, which I mistook as a Snallygaster, but I believe a Snallygaster has a bird head and not a what I would assume is an elk head of some sort with the devil tail and the wings. Jersey Devil. Next up, the good old famous Bigfoot. Looks like a very buff caveman. Followed by the Ozark Howler. Which looks like a crazy looking bear with horns. Demon bear? Demon bear. And finally we have the Banshee. Ghosts and geists and stuff. The minis are actually really well done, to be honest with you. I just think that they're... I mean, you could really skip on these and really lose a lot of the form in the casting of these things. If you ever watched my Dejarik video, that's an example of miniatures that kind of just... they didn't get formed very well, and I know that that's probably somewhat intentional, but we also have this bag here. This bag here is for all of the items. It has a Velcro close to it, which is different from the original, which had a drawstring. So this one also appears to be different material. The other one was a cloth material. This one feels like recycled plastic material, so kudos on the recycling, maybe? Yeah? It's pretty neat. It reminds me of those reusable shopping bags as far as like the material is concerned. And I'm liking the you know, Velcro close right here, so that's pretty cool. So that's where your items go. Fun stuff there. Did I do that wrong? No? I don't know. Anyway, that's our bag. The next thing on our list is the monster mat. And then the final thing that we'll have to look at is the cards. Let me go ahead and get rid of that guy. Bigfoot. So these monster mats do a couple things. They tell you a little bit about the monster, but they also tell you about the setup for the monster. So when you're setting up with these monsters, it'll give you basics on how to do so, which you'll see right here. Bigfoot monster setup. And then on the front, just some fun stuff about Bigfoot, who just looks like a very hairy man with an ogre jaw and probably not a whole lot of good social skills. Up next, Banshee of the Badlands. Not really sure where the Badlands are. My guess is some desert area in the US. That would make sense to me. She likes music, maybe, or she doesn't like music, or is music heralding the end? Who knows? But the Banshee of the Badlands. Incorporeal. Next up, we got the Chupacabra. I'm going to assume, the New Mexico, Texas, Mexican border area. Since really Chupacabra is I feel weird calling it an American cryptid. It's, I believe origins come from Mexico, but sure, we'll take credit for that. Why not? Anyway, that's our Chupacabra. Next up is the Ozark Howler. Fun story. My grandparents live in Missouri, specifically very, very, very close to the Ozarks, like 10, 15 minutes from the Ozarks. And yeah, I don't remember ever seeing an Ozark Howler anytime I visited. Nor do I remember hearing stories about it. Nor do I remember hearing any weird growls out there. It is not unusual to find bears and big, mean cats and other types of large predatorial creatures out there. So hearing growling or anything of the sort is not an unusual thing out there. This is my first time ever hearing about the Ozark Howlers. Just put it that way. Next up, we have Mothman. Mothman is an iconic cryptid up there with Bigfoot and Nessie. But yeah, good old Mothman. Bad omens abound. Then we got ourselves the Jersey Devil. Jersey Devil is iconic, but I don't know a lot about it. Aside from the fact that it looks terrifying. Like a flying reindeer, except, with wings and not just magic. And a tail of a devil, so, scary sauce. This one, as far as like deformed creatures are concerned, is right up there with Snallygaster. Which, if either of these ever showed up, Snallygaster or Jersey Devil, I would definitely be terrified out of my wits. Okay, the last thing we're going to look at is the cards for this. And this one does have one of those little pull tabs that are the bane of my existence. So let's see if I can't do this successfully. Oh my god, I did. All right. So we got some citizens here. We got Cross Creek Citizen, the Recluse, the Farmer, the Salesman, the teacher, the grease monkey, the doctor, the diner owner, the bellhop, the sheriff, the park ranger. What is that behind her? Who knows? The councilman, the soda jerk, the groundskeeper. We got some events here. Rainstorm. Those eyes. Dead end. Always waiting. Haunted music. Like the little skeleton that's playing. Got stalking their prey. You can tell by the eye that this is a goat. So this poor goat is toast. No place is safe. The hunger. Got ourselves an all-terrain vehicle. Actually, we have a couple. We have a supply drop. Dang. I hope the insurance covers that. Chopper lift. They're going to charge him so much for that. We got ourselves a shelter, which looks like one of those towers where they watch forested areas to see if there's fires or whatnot. Got ourselves on the trail. Safe zone. Equip. Signal flare. Convoy. Infrared. Ancestry. Sonic safety. So the music is bad. Set a trap. This is like when you're trying to lure out a T-Rex, only significantly smaller and probably equally as terrifying. Who knows? Cave in. Like a moth to flame. Then I have what I assume are player references. That's exactly what it is. So it talks about the investigator phase, and it talks about the monster phase. There are 5 of these, 1 for each player. These cards are super flimsy. So that is all of the cards, and that is what you get with Horrified American Monsters. Lots and lots of cryptids. I always thought of this, or, you know, look at this game kind of like a very, very, very light version of like Arkham Horror. So obviously there's some major differences, but the main similarities being that Arkham Horror is a cooperative game. You are fighting any of numerous different types of Cthulhu mythos gods. And or, you know, right hand man type creatures, I suppose. And you know, you have a certain time limit to do it, so it's very much like a very light version of Fantasy Flight's Arkham Horror. So if you have any questions or comments, leave those below. Let's keep it positive, no negative comments. I will be removing those, so just keep it classy. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And if you feel a need to support me, hit me up on my Patreon. It's patreon.com/uncommonramen, capital U, capital R. Any amount that, even $1 will help me to bring more of this content. I do this in my free time, so any amount of support really helps to help me bring more of this content. And guys, until next time, peace.